Oh, good morning. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to your Cup of Cyber. Today we're having a little bit weird because we have the green screen going on and there's green in the cup, so it's acting weird. But it is illy coffee in a New York cup, so it's always good on a morning like this. So if you've been watching the news, you'll know that this Equifax breach has been all over the news yesterday. The breach happened over a year ago, but the Department of Justice and the FBI have determined who the attackers are. So, kind of interesting. I don't think a lot of people were terribly surprised when this news came out. But if you want to go over a high level overview of what this attack was, what the penalties were, who these attackers are, and what the DOJ says about them, hang out with us. Let's talk about it this morning in the Cup of Cyber. Again, welcome. Today, as you know, try to tie this to a holiday. Today is Lost Penny Day. This was founded by Adrienne Cooper Smith in 1995. She says that petty change can make an astounding difference. I wouldn't say change is petty, but every day we get together, we talk about these things, and hopefully they're increasing your knowledge of not only security, but kind of some of the background that happens around it and why these things happen. So I'm glad you could join this morning. If you're here, if you're watching later on the recording, that's good as well. It's good that it's National Penny Day because it's also Lincoln's birthday, born in 1809 on this day. We'll celebrate that on Monday here in the United States. So today we're talking about Equifax. The attack that happened focused in on the Apache Struts application. And the way it works is Apache is a piece of software that runs on a server. A lot of times it's a Linux server, but it can run on Windows as well. And it serves up web pages. And Struts is an application that runs on top of Apache that helps handle interactions between the backend database and the user request. And it works kind of on Java. And we're not going to go too much in depth on Struts itself. But this is an application. And we talk about this every time you add applications to your environment, to your operating systems, to your systems. Every time we add something, then we increase the attack surface. And every time we increase the attack surface, that's more places the bad guy can attack. That's more places we have to patch and keep secure. So it does provide functionality, and that's always our balance between usability and security. So we have to go back and forth to make sure that we're keeping this as secure as possible, right? So probably, we needed to run, Equifax needed to run Struts on Apache because it added functionality, but it needed to be secure, right? So this Apache Struts 2 vulnerability was a CVE, Common Vulnerability Enumeration, 2017-5638, which means it was the 5,638th vulnerability introduced in 2017, right? When the attack happened, the Apache patch to fix this was over 2 months old. And we know if we talk about these things, we talked about in Security Plus in the Cyber Insider, not Cyber Insider, but Cyber Insider. We talked about that. We know there's a patch cycle. You have to test the patch and you have to make sure it doesn't break your system, and you have to do a lot of things before you roll it out. But 2 months is quite a long time because this vulnerability had a CVE rating of 10, which is the highest it can possibly be. And it was also a remote code execution, which means the attacker didn't even have to be on the local network to make this happen. So very, very dangerous, and should have been a high priority for Equifax to fix, but they didn't. They didn't get around to doing it, and there's probably a ton of reasons why they did. I have no idea how their patch cycles work and what was going on, but this was a critical vulnerability, and it was a critical vulnerability on one of their internet-facing systems. and it just, it should have been fixed within 2 months, right? Really high level of vulnerability there. What happened when this breach occurred? Data from nearly 150 million Americans, right? So this is the largest breach we've had in America. This was taken. It was exfiltrated, and was things like names, social security numbers, PII, types of PII. And if you think Equifax is a credit reporting company. So they have a lot of information on people, a ton of information on people. So it really was critical they keep their system secure, because they had a bunch of our information. 150 million Americans, just about half of Americans' data was taken, right? So bigger than the Home Depot breach, bigger than the Wawa breach here out in Virginia. Obviously, a lot of people were impacted by this, right? So there was a fine imposed, because this was determined to be, Equifax's was fault. So there's a fine. The United States, they were fined $700 million. And Watchdog Fund in Europe also fined them 500,000 pounds, which is pretty substantial amount of money. So when we're, as a security professional, when we're doing our return on security investment, we need to look at things like this. Like, if we don't patch these critical vulnerabilities, these are the numbers a large organization could be up against, right? So depending on what type, obviously it's more than just arbitrary numbers. But if we can think, if we're a company like Equifax, we have that many records with PII, we can use common numbers, right? If we don't have as much, we have half the data, we can kind of use half that. It's a bit scientific, but it's a bit of art as well. So these are the numbers. We can say, okay, the patch program, if we were Equifax, and we could go back in time, right? Or if we're Equifax today, we could say, hey, here's the patch program to patch these systems. This critical CVE rating of 10 remote code execution vulnerability needs to be patched, because it could cost us over $700 million, right? So patching is going to cost us, 10,000. I don't know whatever that is. Definitely a amount of money we need to spend to get this taken care of. So, Department of Justice identified this was 4 Chinese military hackers, which is important, because then we can assume, and this is an assumption, that this is state sponsored, right? These could be 4 people that did this on their own, but the assumption probably is that this was state sponsored, which means that when you have a state sponsored attack, they have a lot of resources. They, being the attackers, have a lot of resources that can be levied against an organization, an enterprise, a system. So we don't need to make it easier by not patching the system. One thing with the Struts vulnerability, the CVE that was exploited, as soon as it was announced, it was a 0-day exploit, but as soon as it was announced, there was already people attacking systems. So it should have been high priority again. These are what the folks look like. I'm not going to attempt to say their names, but they are Chinese PLA, People's Liberation Army members. They're part of the 54th Research Institute. This is the poster from the FBI, and you can see who they are listed there on the poster. Definitely wearing some military regalia in half the cases, and one gentleman is just, I guess we don't know what he looks like, he or she. So again, this is the People's Liberation Army. 54th Research Institute is where all 4 of these people came from. So we can assume that, again, the assumption is that they are state sponsored by China, which, we know this happens. We know almost every country has some type of cyber program going on for exploitation, and it's dependent on that country how they run that program, right? So we've seen a lot of action from Chinese actors in the past, so it should be not a huge surprise this came out. So Department of Justice says that once they accessed the files of interest, the conspirators then stored the stolen information in a temporary output file compressed and divided the files, and ultimately were able to download and exfiltrate the data from Equifax's networks to computers outside the US. In total, the attackers ran approximately 9,000 queries on Equifax systems, obtaining names, birth dates, social security numbers for nearly half of all Americans. Pretty substantial amount of folks impacted. DOJ goes on to say the defendants took steps to evade detection throughout the intrusion. As alleged in the 9-count indictment, they routed traffic through approximately 34 servers located in nearly 20 countries to obfuscate, can have trouble with that one, their true location. They used encrypted communication channels within Equifax network to blend in with normal activity, and deleted compressed files and wiped the logs on a daily basis in an effort to eliminate records of their activity. Again, a lot of things we have controls around a lot of these things, right? Storing logs on the local machine is never good. We have to do it to some point. We want to get those logs off of those servers onto a centralized location where they can be monitored, where they can be compiled and evaluated and assessed. So that's one thing. Don't know if that was happening here, but it looks like the attackers were able to clean their logs off after they made the attack. They used encrypted traffic within the network, which if they have IDSs and IPSs, there's a chance that the network, the Equifax network folks, were not inspecting that traffic, because a lot of times it takes effort to decrypt the encrypted traffic and inspect it, and that slows down the network processing speed. So a lot of times that may not happen. So the biggest thing here, there's a lot of things we could have done, detective and reactive, but the biggest thing was proactively patching servers, right? We have to do this. We have to have a process in our organization to patch these things, right? Because that's what the folks exploit. Most of the exploits are, first, people. Train your people. You got to train your people, because if I can send somebody a email with a link in it, and they click it, and they open your network up, game over, right? Generally. Also, if we don't patch our systems, we make it easier for the bad guy, for the exploitation to occur, because the attack surface, there's a large attack surface that is unprotected, right? So you may notice I got a new pirate shirt on today. Some folks may know that flag flying in the background. I need to put the link to where I got that from in the notes, but that's what we normally think of the Jolly Rogers, that with the swords, or that with the skull and crossbones. This, some of you may have noticed, is Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard's flag. I'll throw the link. I just got it on Amazon. I'll throw the link in the bottom if you want to get yourself a Blackbeard pirate shirt. Anyways, he was the one of the most famous pirates, captained the Queen Anne's Revenge. So, anyways, bottom line today: put your controls in place. Have a risk-based approach to securing your systems. Have a patch management system, and keep your systems locked up. Bad guys are out there. They're gonna come try to get your systems. The bigger target you are, the more likely you are to be attacked. This is not unique to Equifax. This happens in companies every day. We need to be vigilant. That's why we need more people in the field. Hopefully you guys watch these videos, and the others on this channel makes you more cyber aware. Maybe you get into the cyber field if you're not in it yet. Need more and more good people. Anyways, you want to see what we're doing, hit the bell to be notified when new videos come out. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. What are your thoughts? Do you think you were affected by the Equifax breach? What do you know about patching? How do you take care of patching in your environment if you know what's going on, or even just want to talk about pirate stuff? Open to listen to what you got to say. One fight, one team. Let's get out there and secure the world. Be safe out there. That's weird. Got something going on there. Be safe out there, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.